Welcome to the Pivot Point Podcast. This season, I am focused on real-time hot topics and the gender equality and diversity spaces. In this episode, I will break down a current event, provide my point of view, what I liked and what I'd like to see change, and leave you with some actionable tips to think about and discuss with your organization. I share this information because equality is a candid conversation. It takes bravery and courage, and you do not have to do it alone. At Pivot Point, I believe we are stronger together. We are one. So we have another guest with us this week, and I'm so excited. Lorraine Ball has been an amazing mentor to me. She just redid my website, and I'm thrilled with how much more professional and clean and crisp and easy to navigate it is. So she has an amazing business, Roundpeg, that I've been fortunate to work with. Highly recommend. And Lorraine, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. And for those of you that can't see it, I'm dusting off my shoulders right now.
Well, Lorraine, we meet monthly and we go through my business, and Lorraine challenges me on my metrics. Sometimes I think she cares more about my business than I do. Just now, she shared that I need to increase my sales goal for the year and the month.
You're sandbagging.
She said sandbagging, like, ah! It's like having a board of directors that I may not have actually known what I was getting myself into, but you challenge me in a way that it's just, it really excites me and makes me passionate.
Well, and it's fun because, on both sides of the mentoring relationship, and Julie is very kind when she talks about our relationship and often glosses over the fact that I said no several times, because a lot of times mentoring relationships are not very rewarding. And this one is fun because I give you good advice, you take it, you make it your own, and then we get to celebrate the successes with a little bit of wine.
Yeah, yes, that is my form of payment, exclusively alcohol, which also helps us with our creativity. We always come up with amazing ideas.
I think so, and they even sound good the next day.
They do. They do. Well, I appreciate that support. And so last time I was here, you were showing me, you just went through a values exercise, and this is why I wanted Lorraine on, because so much of the work I do in the diversity and inclusion and equality spaces touch on values. If you don't believe that diversity and inclusion is important in your organization and it's not a part of your values, not overtly, but even subconsciously woven into those values, it's really hard to live them.
It absolutely is. And I think a lot of companies make the mistake. They create these value statements and they do it in isolation, in an ivory tower, and then you get a memo that tells you that these are your company values, and they're never really embraced by people. They never really become part of the culture, and I think that was really important for us.
Oh, I know. I'm inside so many organizations that have them up on the wall, they've got them on the website. When I ask people, what are your values? They can usually come up with one or two, but the third, fourth, fifth one just fall off the radar.
Well, and I think that's part of it is a lot of companies try to have too many values and they are disconnected and they are also created by a different group. And so it's a balance. We have, at Roundpeg, we have company values. We're a little company. We have 9 employees. And I didn't necessarily want to redo my values every time I get new employees, but I need to make sure that the new group embraces them and becomes understands that this is really important to us.
Yeah, and I often share with my clients, they're the non-negotiable behaviors. These are the values and behaviors that we will hold each other accountable to. There are hiring criteria, there are separation criteria, there are coaching and performance management criteria. These are the things that you absolutely have to live by.
That idea of hiring criteria and separation. As an entrepreneur, I read this book, Get a Grip, a guide to entrepreneurial. It's an entrepreneurial guide.
Yep.
And one of the things that really came through that book was the idea of using your values as a hiring criteria. It's been a game changer for our organization. When we started really looking at this idea of warm and welcoming, which is an important value for us, and actually discounting potential candidates and saying they don't get to play really talented, really smart, but oh my God, they have the personality of Eeyore. And they're not going to be happy here, and they're not going to be happy interacting with our clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that's what I loved about, you came up with 4. So walk our audience through the process. How did you get to 4? What was the process like? 'Cause you did this internally.
Yes, we did.
Someone like me would come in and do something like this. It's hard to do for your own team.
Well, it's hard to do for my own team, except that in a former life, this is what I did for a living. I did team building work and I did facilitating. But yeah, I actually asked people to write down, because I have a lot of introverts on my team, and so out loud brainstorming is challenging. So the first thing is you got to know the brainstorming style of your team. But then I had them write down the characteristics of the person they wanted sitting next to them. And when we got all those characteristics, and we had a ton of them up on the board, and then we spent some time kind of grouping them together, and then really prioritizing. If you can only pick 4, what do you pick? And it was interesting to see some themes start emerging. What's really was fun for me was when I started my business, and it was just me, I had 3 values: creativity, collaboration, and positive energy. And as I started bringing people in and they had their own opinions, sometimes I'd be like, no! But other times I went, no, that was really the right direction. But what was fun is the 4 values that we came up with and that we really embrace as kind of who we are now are different but very connected to that original vision, which tells me that my company is still on track.
Yeah, well, and it's your company. How personal is this to you? And those values evolve over time. Now, you don't want to be schizophrenic about it and shift completely back and forth. But I can see these alive here. So we're looking at the document. This is who we are.
You know, we are mutually invested in success, and that really speaks to the collaboration and the partnership process that we have with our clients, that we care about the outcomes. The second one is curious about the world, that idea that things are constantly changing and people come to us because we're on the bleeding edge. They want those new ideas. And so somebody who comes in and we ask them, well, what's the last thing you read? And it's something they read in high school. Yeah, no.
Of Mice and Men.
Of Mice and Men. Unless they say to me, you know what, I'm rereading some of the books I read in high school because I want a different perspective, then I will respect that. Yeah, I don't read, no.
Right.
No. I used to ask a question like, what was the most interesting piece of information you learned recently, and where did you learn it? And I respect that some people learn from the internet and some people learn from TV, but curiosity.
Yeah.
Being resourceful and responsive. And that was really an adaptation of 2 very different values. One is a customer calls and they need us to solve a problem. So we respond to what they're asking, but also recognizing that the answer may not be something we can say, oh, we've done that 20 times before.
Oh, I've experienced that. Very responsive team.
Cool. Yeah, we take it very seriously. We have an unwritten but very specific rule that calls get answered on the first ring at Roundpeg. And the idea that if a phone rings twice in this building, somebody better be jumping. We get a lot of business because people say, you know what, I got voicemail at 3 other agencies. And then that last one, this is a warm and welcoming environment. And that really speaks to that positive energy. Our potential employees feel welcome. Our customers love to come to the Little White House. It is really who we are and how we operate.
Yeah. Well, and I can see the original values that you had around creativity is certainly the curiosity piece, the positive energy, warm and welcoming. But I love how you invited your team into the process and let them co-create those values so that they feel a part of it. Now, what I think is interesting about this is you said it's become the hiring criteria now. So you just went through some new hiring, and it forces you to make some tough decisions because you have candidates that have the skills.
Oh my goodness, yes. You know, I've looked at, we actually had someone, I looked at his portfolio and I loved it. I mean, I dropped dead. This is spectacular. His work is great. I liked him on the phone and we brought him in, and I realized that he number one, he didn't have the mutually invested. It was about him. He had this very much, well, what do you do if a client doesn't like your work? Well, you go back to the drawing board, dude. Well, how do you convince them that you're right? Well, sometimes you don't. You know, and he just couldn't wrap his head around that. And I thought, oh my God, not a good fit.
Well, and the big struggle in the diversity and inclusion space is with my clients, a lot of them have their values, much like you do, and I love how tailored they are and how custom they are and how much they truly do fit the way your team breathes in this organization. But a lot of times, sometimes it's used as an exclusionary factor. They don't fit here, and that means that's code for they don't look like us, they didn't go to the same schools we went to, they don't have the same background, and so it can be an exclusionary, which is counterintuitive to the principle of inclusion.
Yeah, well, and I think the thing that you have to look at when you're looking at your values is really how deep and how core to what a human being. How a human being operates, and has nothing to do with, I mean, our core values, male, female, they apply. They apply.
They're gender neutral.
They are gender neutral. They are racial neutral. They are sexual orientation neutral.
Yeah.
And we have had amazingly talented people who fit all of those buckets, but all fit Roundpeg.
Yeah. Well, and you have a pretty diverse team now. So you have more racial diversity than you've had in the past. Gender equal?
We actually have we have more women than men. We have had in the past we've had more men than women when we were a little smaller. It is hard in the business that I'm in to actually have a lot of men because more women gravitate towards this field. But we've had people from, I've had a Taiwanese intern, I've had someone from India, so we get some nice mixture. What I'm really trying to do and what my values really help me do is look into the soul of the person and figure out at their core, are they who we are?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. The soul of the person, a window into that soul. And I really like the question you asked earlier in the episode about who do you want to sit next to? Such a great tip for our listeners. If you're wrestling with values, or maybe you got some values sitting on the shelf, you know, a lot of us do, or they're on a wall somewhere, no one can remember them. I would also offer drilling in on some specific behaviors. So how do we know this value's living and breathing in real life? And you've got some further detail on these so you can spell it out for people. This is what I mean by this. And that's where I also see a big opportunity inside organizations. I'll make sure to share in the show notes. We have a values and behaviors tool guide that we can actually use as well.
I think one of the things that keeping that number at 3 to 5 forces you to have that priority conversation. Because, and we were talking about this earlier about some of the people you're looking to hire, there are not a lot of unicorns out there. You are going to make trade-offs.
Right.
Is it more important that the person is curious or flexible?
Right.
And different organizations will make different value judgments, and it's not that one is right or wrong. It's what is important to you and your organization right now.
Yeah, they're trade-offs. You can't. I'm going to get my unicorn, though. Right? She keeps telling me I'm not going to, but I will find it. But I would agree. I always tell companies, prioritize values over skill sets. You can train people on the skill sets. We overvalue industry expertise. That's one easy area. To cut that out, you can teach somebody about the industry. You can teach them the skill sets needed. Values you cannot teach people.
No. What's really interesting is I went from the heating and air conditioning industry to the insurance industry. And everybody said to me, how did you make that leap? And the answer was really that it's about the customer. And in both of those instances, you were selling to somebody one-on-one across a kitchen table who didn't want to buy your product.
Right.
And so really thinking about what's the important takeaway of our industry.
Yeah, I really like that. And think about how can you pair them with somebody that can teach them about that, how you can get them to industry events to teach them about that. But there's so much tangential information across industries. I agree. I spent time in 5 or 6 industries, and I thought that was actually a strength because you could see some external perspective and you're not as biased to this is what our industry does and accepting the status quo. Well, Lorraine, it's been fun. Thank you so much for being on. This actually is our last episode of the Hot Topics season. I think values is a huge hot topic and so impactful to the diversity and inclusion conversation. So I appreciate you being with us.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Did you know that you can find all 3 seasons of our 50-plus episodes at nextpivotpoint.com, and you can sign up for our next free online workshop, get access to our 5 questions to get the gender equality conversation started in your organization, and ask me, Julie, your questions directly. I appreciate you listening to this episode. Who do you know that needs to hear this message? Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Julie Kratz, Kratz. We post daily. I host this podcast because I believe we are stronger together. We are one.